And action. Hello, I'm Kyler.
And I'm Everett.
So today we're gonna talk about perception and reality, and we're gonna teach you. And so we have some questions, and then we're gonna answer them, a lot of them correctly, but then we're gonna answer the other ones based on what we think, because we don't know the actual answer in real life. But there's like some stuff that could lead us a certain way. So we're gonna talk about those and what we think. We don't really think anything, but we think.
Yeah.
Kind of think something.
Yeah.
Okay. First question. What is the brain? The brain is the control center of the body and is developed through evolution.
It's made up of billions of neurons that communicate using electrical and chemical signals. It processes information, controls bodily functions, and enables thought, emotions, and consciousness.
Stop.
I was getting comfortable.
Get out of my way. So this is how evolution happened. First, we started with single cells, and then it evolved to multicellular organisms or nerve nets that learned that working together was more efficient and easier and better. And then it evolved to ganglia, where it was just like a couple groups of cells working together and then like some other cells scattered around. Then that went to cephalization, where there was a head or central nervous system or like control center. And then I wrote the wrong thing. And then this is a body with a spinal cord leading up to the brain. The spinal cord works as like a highway to communicate to the brain, for the brain to create some coordinated responses and sophisticated thoughts. And yeah, that's how it happened, and that's how we got our brains. Okay, why are you moving? Next question. What are neurons and how do they work? So this right here, from here to here, is a neuron. And at the top, there's the dendrites. These things right here, these are like the listeners, the ears. And then we have the cell nucleus. And then the axon hillock, that little hill right there, that's like, I'm just gonna talk about that in a second. The axon is like the whole branch thing. And then the axon terminal is like the communicators that communicate to the other neuron below it. These are the dendrites of another neuron, and they're transmitting neurotransmitters. And then the synapse is just like the space in between the dendrites and the axon terminal.
So, the whole neuron starts at negative 70 charge. There's ions inside the neuron, which makes it a negative 70 charge.
Continue.
And then positive charges come from other neurons that have been activated, and it goes down.
Like, as you can see what's happening here. Like,
Yeah.
This is the how the thing's going.
Yeah. So the positive charges are going down through the nucleus. I forgot what the word was again. It goes down, and then once it hits to the axon hillock, that's negative 40 charge. Once it hits the axon hillock, then little holes open up in the terminal, and a bunch of other positive ions flood into the axon hillock.
And it automatically goes up to positive 30.
Yeah.
Because the surrounding the axon is a bunch of like positive ions.
Mm-hmm. Like potassium and
around the extracellular is positive and the intracellular is negative. So as soon as those holes open up after getting to the axon hillock, they're flooding. It automatically booms up to positive 30.
Yeah. And so when that happens, that means the neuron has been activated. So then this crazy positive charge ends up popping little vesicles. There's little vesicles in the axon terminal. I keep forgetting the words. In the axon terminal, there's little vesicles, like little, kind of like pimples, basically. And when the neuron gets activated, those pimples pop and release neurotransmitters, which are these little tiny little things that go into the other dendrites of the neighboring neuron. Oh my god. of the neighboring neuron, which then, if enough neurotransmitters get into here, it'll add more positive charges, and it'll, like, the whole cycle continues. And I'll go into neurotransmitters more right now.
What are neurotransmitters and how do they work? So some of the neurotransmitters include adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, GABA, acetylcholine, and glutamate and endorphins. They're very hard to say, but trust me, I know a lot about them.
Yeah, so starting off with adrenaline. Adrenaline is produced in stressful or exciting situations. It increases heart rate and blood flow, leading to a physical boost and strengthened awareness.
Like, it's like when you're, like, about to, like, play in a basketball game and you're, like, so aware and so, like, your blood is flowing, or, like, you hear, like, you get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and it's dark, but then, like, you, like, hear your cat knock something off the shelf and you get so scared because you don't understand at first. And so you're just like, am I gonna fly? Am I gonna fight? Or am I gonna freeze?
Yeah, adrenaline is responsible for the fight, flight, or freeze response, like she just said.
Next step
is noradrenaline. It affects attention and responding actions in the brain and is involved in fight or flight responses. Contracts blood vessels, increasing blood flow and concentration.
It's like when you hear that, like, one little teeny tiny creak in the door when you're sleeping at night, and then, like, your ears, you're like, you can't think of anything else, and your ears are just so focused on if you hear any other noises or sounds or footsteps.
Yeah. All right, next one up is probably the most well-known one, dopamine. Dopamine.
I think it's adrenaline.
Kind of tied. Dopamine is.
We're trying to be educational and teach them, not teach ourselves.
Okay. So next one is dopamine, which is one of the most well-known ones after adrenaline. Dopamine is...
It's related to addiction. So, like, once you get that feeling of pleasure from, like, doing something, like, for example, like, drinking alcohol or, like, doing a drug, like, you get that, like, high feeling, and that's dopamine, and then you have, like, the desire to do it again. Like people are, what they're addicted to is, like, the dopamine feeling that it brings them to do that stuff, even if it, like, it's, like, an addicting feeling, and even if that, like, messes up their life and stuff like that, it's still, like, super addicting. And then it's also just, like, the anticipation of that feeling, like, they know they like could potentially get up to that feeling again, so they want to keep doing it, even though that, like, a lot of the times once you get, like, the first high, it's like you get high up to here because it's your first time, you're just, like, normalness and stuff like that, but then this becomes, like, a little bit normal when you, like, get that high. So then the next time you do it, it's a little less, like, good, and, like, it just goes down.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, like, it has to do with addiction and pleasure. Yeah, addiction, people repeat the behaviors that lead to the dopamine release because it's, like, a good, pleasureful feeling for them.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be just drugs
Yeah.
and alcohol and stuff. It can be anything like scrolling social media. That it could be scrolling social media, like you're scrolling through Instagram, hoping to find something that makes you laugh. And once that happens, it's like, oh, whatever, and you just keep going. But it's that anticipation of finding something that'll make you laugh that keeps you scrolling. Or like the anticipation of unknown. That's why a lot of people like mystery products, like mystery things, like, oh, a mystery box, oh, what is inside? Like, they don't know what's inside, and they're anticipating something good, so that's why a lot of people like them.
Gambling, too, that's a big one.
Yep.
Because they, like, could win, but they don't know if they can win.
Yeah.
Everything. Next, we have serotonin.
Serotonin contributes to well-being and happiness. It helps sleep cycle and digestive system regulation. It is affected by exercise and light exposure. It also relates to your mood. Serotonin is often kind of paired with dopamine because serotonin is like dopamine but lasts a lot longer. It's not addictive, and it's like what makes you feel good. Dopamine gives you pleasure. Serotonin makes you just overall happy and feel good. It's like...
Serotonin's like the healthy version of dopamine.
Yeah. Oh, and a lot of people with depression have very low serotonin levels. So a lot of antidepressants have...
Serotonin?
Yes. To kind of try to boost that.
Mm-hmm. Next is the GABA.
It calms firing nerves in the central nervous system. So like it's the neurotransmitter that calms down the adrenaline or any fear that you have. That's what calms you down.
When you have high levels, it improves your focus and like your ability to be locked in and stuff. But when you have low levels of GABA, you're like anxious, and so that's what I just said.
Oh, you said it as I was saying it.
I said anxious. Okay, keep that. Because I literally said it. Yeah, so it's basically just like the thing that like calms you and like keeps you from like being anxious and like freaking out in like situations and stuff.
Yeah, so if you're like having a panic attack or something and you start taking like deep breaths, then a lot of times GABA is what is calming you down. Taking those deep breaths, slowing yourself down, releases GABA, which calms you down.
Yeah.
Next one is acetyl. We should look up how to pronounce that.
No. Okay, next is the acetylcholine, which has to do with thoughts, learning, and memory. So basically anything that like is stored up here, like taking in stuff, like right now you're taking this video, that's right now you're thinking about it, and then it's gonna be like you're learning it, and then it's gonna stay in your memory, you know?
It activates muscles in action within the body. So like if you're moving muscles like this, it's what helps activate the muscles to move around and stuff. It's also associated with attention and waking up. So when you wake up, a lot of acetylcholine gets released and helps you kind of wake up and be attentive, and then that lets you learn and go about your day.
Next is glutamate. This is the most common neurotransmitter that happens or like gets transmitted.
It's involved in learning and memory, and it regulates development and creation of nerve contacts. It's closely related with memory because another way to think of it is glutamate. It's like the glue that keeps your kind of keeps your brain together. It lets you memorize stuff, and yeah,
like without it, like you wouldn't remember a lot.
Yeah,
it helps you with your memory. It like helps you with everything.
And it also helps create nerve contacts, so it allows more parts of your brain to be used and communicate with each other, so you're smarter. What? Breathe right or something?
Okay, nope. Last we have endorphins neurotransmitter, and basically what it is like euphoria. It's released during exercise, excitement, and SEX.
It produces well-being and euphoria, like she said, and it also helps reduce pain. A lot of painkillers have endorphins in it. It helps you, feel being like a euphoric state. It's not necessarily serotonin or dopamine. It just makes you kind of like feel good feel good. Makes your body feel good, makes your brain feel good, but it's not long lasting like serotonin. It's not like directed towards happiness. It's just like a certain time frame that just makes you feel good. So that's why also painkillers can be addictive also, because it gives dopamine and also endorphins, which gives that euphoric state.
What are different regions of the brain and how do they influence our instincts?
So first I'll talk about the limbic system. So the limbic system is like central to like the emotion, bonding, pain, disgust, pleasure, and like any like social feelings. And it's also linked to eyesight as well. So the amygdala is the next part I'm going to talk about. It is like, it has to do with like the social cues and triggers. So it causes like anxiety. A lot of times the amygdala is triggered by stressors, like if you have like a mean teacher, or like your mom died in a car accident or something, and like you'll be scared of cars, or just like fear in general. So if you didn't have an amygdala, you wouldn't have like traumatic responses to like stressors. So a quote from Behave, page 31. Show human subjects pictures that provoke anger and the amygdala activates. So like showing like stressors, or like having stressors, and like that's what makes the amygdala activate. And then the next one I'm going to talk about is the frontal cortex. So the frontal cortex is like what makes you like do the right thing, because it's like the better thing to do. Here's a quote from Behave. The frontal cortex makes you do the harder thing when it's the right thing to do. The frontal cortex like has a role in like controlling behavior, because it's like holding back the bad behavior that you know would have like the frontal cortex would know that there would be a bad outcome if you like take on that behavior and do that behavior. And like it's like if when you know something's wrong, the frontal cortex like holds you back from doing it. Without a frontal cortex, or with a weaker frontal cortex, you'll have like less control, or like no control over your behavior at all, and you'll just like go out and like do the like worst thing when it's bad. The prefrontal cortex keeps like your inside thoughts and feelings inside. So basically like any like thought, like if you didn't have like a strong prefrontal cortex, you'd kind of just like say things without really like thinking them through. Obviously it relates to the frontal cortex. So when you get drunk or something like that, and like you can't really control your prefrontal cortex anymore, or your prefrontal cortex can't control you anymore, you start like acting like how your thoughts are. So like if you have like a lot of like happy thoughts, you'll like start acting happy. But if you have a lot of like mad thoughts, you'll be like a mad drunk, like punch someone in the face, or like you'll just say like sometimes like if you have like out of pocket thoughts, and you just say those out of pocket things without being able to hold yourself back. And both the frontal cortex and the prefrontal cortex are parts of the cortex part of the brain, which is like the most advanced part. And it's like the cortex, like all together has to do with like discipline, as you can tell by the frontal cortex and the prefrontal cortex. So, yeah.
Okay, so the primitive brain. The primitive brain. Okay. The primitive brain controls vital functions like heartbeat, breathing, and digestion. It assists in communication between brain regions, and it also coordinates reflective actions like reacting to sudden noises or movements.
Oh.
I tried to get you. Yeah, so it is what helps you breathe without thinking about breathing. Got you there. It's kind of keeps your body going, so you don't have to think about it, because a lot of your
Like blinking.
bodily functions happen without you thinking about it. It also helps with communicating between brain regions, so like your brain can talk to each other, and so your whole brain works together instead of separate pieces working separately, so it's like a bunch of different things happening. Also coordinates reflective actions, so like if an apple falls out of the tree,
Like you just blinked.
Yeah, like if an apple falls out of the tree and it's coming down, it's gonna hit Kyler in the head. Okay, you just
Okay, do it again.
She's supposed to move out of the way. Like an apple's falling out of the tree, boom, see, it missed her because of her primitive brain gave her reflective abilities to move out of the way. Okay, you can sit back up now. This is a bad angle. It also helps with, like reflexes, and sudden movements or noises. So like if you hear a snake hissing behind you, you instantly like react super quickly and get out of the way of the snake. Next is
those instincts help you survive too.
Yeah.
Like all of them. The breathing, the like running away from like scariness.
Yeah. The next one is the occipital lobe, which handles visual processing and allows us to determine threats visually. That means that it also is what lets you have this internal movie playing. It lets you see what you're seeing. Like your eyes, light goes into your eyes, it hits the back of your eyes, which then sends signals to the occipital lobe, which then the occipital lobe is just like this little flesh piece in the back of your head. And that is what kind of brings what you're seeing, these photons to life, so we can see. It's kind of like, in a way, kind of what gives us consciousness. Well, not entirely, because blind people are conscious, but yeah, it helps us think thoughts. If like it helps you dream, if you're like close your eyes and you start thinking of like a dog, you can picture a dog. That's kind of what it helps with.
I don't know what I would do without it.
You'd be blind.
I don't know what I would do without it.
You would, if you don't have sight and don't have an occipital lobe, or it's damaged or some way, then you still use the temporal lobe, but it will become more useful, because the temporal lobe is what processes auditory signals and emotions. It helps us instinctively react to sound. So it lets you hear. It's what has sound waves go into your eardrums, and then your eardrums relay that information to your brain, and it lets you hear things. And it also allows us to, it takes emotion into account. So if you hear someone start like talking, but if their like voice is shaking, or they're like, you can hear sadness in their voice, it lets you hear emotions through sound too, not just seeing it. So yeah. This is Oreo.
Ah. Oreo. Oreo, come here. Okay, so our next question we're going to be discussing. This is we're now shifting to a point where it's no longer facts or anything like that. It's basically what we think.
Yeah.
So the question is, what do you think the brain's role in creating consciousness and the mind is?
So this is what I think. It's up to debate. But this is what I think. I believe the brain's role in creating consciousness in the mind is similar to hardware in a computer. The physical properties of the brain, such as neurons, neurotransmitters, electrical currents, etc., work as the hardware of consciousness. This hardware processes information which generates awareness, thoughts, and emotions. Just as hardware in a computer runs software programs, the brain's physical structure creates a software in the mind, such as perception, memory, and decision-making. The multiple parts of the brain together can be seen as the motherboard, which connects all the parts of the computer, yourself, together. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree, but yeah, I just think that it's like the brain being there makes it like builds the environment to like for like the consciousness and the mind to like be present in.
Yeah.
So our next question, we're getting into more of the consciousness. So the question is, how does the mystery of consciousness challenge the idea that all we are is material reductionism? Material reductionism is everything we talked about at the beginning, basically. Like the neurons, neurotransmitters, like the brain cells and everything.
It's like thinking that all you are is material. You're like your body, your brain, yourself, your consciousness is just all material. It's all biological. It can all be explained by science.
The mystery of consciousness challenges the idea that all we are is material reductionism because subjective experience does not seem to emerge from material interactions in a way that we can fully understand.
Material reductionism suggests that consciousness is just a byproduct of the brain's activity, much like heat from a fire.
That analogy is contradicting because you can like if the fire is like life and then the heat is like the consciousness that emerges from it, then like if you put out the fire, the person dies, the heat still like lingers around for a little while. So could that be like, people are questioning if that could be like an afterlife, and obviously nobody knows if there is an afterlife because we don't know. So yeah. So also, the mystery of consciousness challenges the idea of that all we are is material reductionism, because some people, I think it's about like 10% report 10% of people who were like clinically dead report of having a near-death experience, is the term used to describe it, where their brain was completely dead, but they report having like a conscious experience of it, where like they report like whether it's like they know they were conscious when they were brain dead, like they had like a brain surgery and they were like there was one person who was having a brain surgery and she reported that she like described the tools that they were using on her without knowing what tools they were using on her, and like what each doctors were doing and stuff like that. But they were doing a brain surgery on her. Her brain was not alive. So that contradicts material reductionism. And then also some of those 10% report of having like seeing something, like, I don't know, like a gate or something, like telling them it's not their time, like to go back, like, but technically, like, well, they are like brain dead, and like there's no oxygen getting to their brain. So I mean, it could be like people just waking up, like as they're waking up from that brain dead state, they like are unconscious in a way that they still have brain waves, just like less brain waves than like consciousness, you know, because just like when you're sleeping. And they could be like having conscious like thoughts like in their dreams, and they're dreaming that something happened to them, which they call their near-death experience.
Yeah.
Because of like a lot of times when you have a dream, you like a lot of times before bed you think about something, and then you have a dream about the last thing you thought of. It could be that. Like, it could be this one woman was going kayaking along like a river. She like got caught under the water and like under like a rock, or I think she was like pinned down by her kayak. I think that's what happened.
She was kayaking, went off a waterfall, went under the water, and then she like fell out of her kayak and got like one of her limbs stuck in a rock and was under the water drowning.
Yeah.
And she said that she was dead for about 7 minutes underwater.
Yeah. But she was conscious while she was conscious enough to know she was going down a waterfall. She was like getting under the water like for a couple minutes, and like those thoughts that she'd have, like that adrenaline while that is happening, could have led her to like when her brain shut off for a little bit, once it turned back on with like those smaller brain waves, that could have been like a dream that she had of like I think what she reported was like walking through, and like
she was like on this path. A bunch of people like greeted her, and she was on this path, and as she was walking on this path with a bunch of flowers all around this big field, and like the sky was like exploding in colors, and then she like kept walking, and like,
and I think she could also view herself in like the third person. So also
where we're getting this information is from this Netflix series documentary stuff. It's right here, like a picture of it.
Yeah. So, and obviously consciousness is a thing where you can't experience anybody else's consciousness. I can't experience your consciousness, and like I can't experience what it feels like to be you. Just like, you know, you can't experience what it's like to be blind unless you are blind. Yeah, you'll like no two people have the same consciousness, and you never like know how somebody else's like brain functions. Like, you don't know what it's like to be in their head. So we can never know if these people are like telling the truth. Another question is like, there's been like some kids who like have said that they were like reincarnated as like another person, or they haven't said they were reincarnated, but they've said like they've talked about like their past lives, from like how they died to like who their parents were. I've heard of ones where like a kid like completely knew about like 9/11 and like said that they were like working in one of the buildings when 9/11 happened, and like their parents were like, "You're 4 years old, how do you know about 9/11?" There's another there was one person, one little boy, who told his parents who his like previous life's mom's name was, how he died, and he was able to identify like pictures of the park that he went to near his house, his dad, and like 5 pictures. He got them. He did. It was an experiment where he picked between 2 pictures, and like he went 5 for 5 and picked the picture that was like correct to the boy's life, who he was strangled by his babysitter.
Yeah, and there's also another one.
This is also in the Netflix series.
Yeah.
Surviving Death.
There's also another one where this kid, I forget how old he was. He was like 3 or 4 maybe, and he started saying how he was really into planes. He was really big into planes, and he was saying how he was this person. I forget the name of it, but he was calling himself James
the Third.
Yeah, James something.
He would always write James 3.
Yeah, his actual name
was James.
But on papers in school, he would write James 3, and people like his parents and teachers were wondering why he was writing 3 because there was no other Jameses in his family, and so they kind of like started like asking him questions, and then they got like more information out of him for this like James person. And it was this guy that was in the Battle of Iwo Jima. He was a pilot in a specific, I forget what the word's called, in the specific group of people that were on this small ship outside of Iwo Jima where they like launched planes and stuff. And it was this one specific person, and that out of everyone in that group, it was that one person that died, James something the Third, and he died in a plane crash or a plane accident, or he got shot down out of the sky or something. But this kid was able to completely know all of that information, and this was before the internet was like a big thing, so it wasn't like something that he could really just stumble upon.
Yeah, and it was like when his dad started asking him questions, like it took his dad like a bunch of research. He had to like get certain books, ask him questions about the pictures in the books, and still like it was still hard to find that specific like James the Third. So like it's not like the kid could have like turned on the TV and just like seen it.
Yeah.
Like it was not a very like it wasn't a thing like 9/11 where like the whole world was like talking about it and like knew about it.
Yeah, it was some random group of people during the Battle of Iwo Jima where only one person died. It was that exact person. And also that kid was able to recite exactly how to make hydrogen bombs, which wasn't public information at the time. And he was like 4 years old and knew exactly how to make hydrogen bombs.
So that questions material reductionism, because like it's like how could like the consciousness of like James the Third, for example, transfer over or like be in this little boy's mind? How could he know that? If consciousness is just a byproduct of the brain, then that shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that like leads a lot of people to questions. And it's not like near-death experience where it's like a very low percentage. I mean, it's still a low percentage. Like there's not a lot of people who report like being reincarnated, but like it's for near-death experiences, 10% of people who get like clinically dead report of having a near-death experience, which could be made up for popularity. It could just be in their head, but they claim it like changes their whole life. But still, I could never know, we could never know, you could never know if they actually did have that experience. That's our discussion on that. I mean, what I think is that there's never gonna be like enough evidence until I experience myself. I can't make like a claim on like whether like consciousness is just a byproduct of my brain, or if it's just my consciousness is like a separate thing from my brain and I can still live on my consciousness after my brain dies. Like, I mean, it could be different for everybody. Like, obviously not everybody's reporting these experiences, but I can't say anything on that because I've never experienced reincarnation or a near-death experience. So, and there's no way to test it. There's no way to figure it out. The only way to know is to experience it yourself. And sometimes you don't even know if you're experiencing it yourself. Sometimes you just think that. Sometimes you just convince yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're a little brain damaged. So, yeah.
I think for everything that she just said, what I believe and what I think is that near-death experiences, I don't necessarily believe those, because I think that it's just the brain is under a lot of stress, and a lot of times when you're under a lot of stress, it can cause hallucinations, or kind of see things and hear things that aren't necessarily there. Some of the near-death experiences that I've heard of, like the person explaining the tools that were being used during their brain surgery, I don't really know what to think about that, because they could easily have just faked it for the purpose of it,
Yeah,
or
they
they could have
could've
actually
done their
had it.
research on what... I mean, I'm sure if I was about to get a brain surgery, I would go and look what tools are they gonna be sticking into my brain,
Yeah.
and probably be able to
Yeah.
recite that after I come back to life.
Mhm. Yeah. But then the reincarnations, kind of on the fence about that, because most of the things that I've seen, seems pretty real.
It's
At least
kind
some
of
of them.
unexplainable. Like,
Some of them feel like they're fake, but other ones
Yeah.
feel like they're real, like the plane one, and the other kid that she was talking about. That
the
was there,
Hollywood kid. Okay, it's a little bit ironic that in his past life, he used to be a Hollywood star, and now he's using that reincarnation story to get on Netflix.
Yeah.
So, and he's 13. He's like old enough to...
Yeah.
Or he was like older than that.
Like the younger kids, like the
Yeah,
3-year-olds and 4-year-olds
Yeah.
are the ones that are more believable.
Yeah. Who was like experimented on. He picked the correct photos from his previous life. Like, that can't be fake. That's an experiment saying that boy was reincarnating. Yeah, the boy literally proved it with science. He was tested by being shown photos from Jalen, that was his name, Jalen's life, and got the same results, 5 for 5, after picking the correct picture to Jalen's life. So, and science is doing an experiment over and over again and getting the same answers. So, that boy was reincarnated. Okay, our next question is, what is consciousness? So there's a difference between like living and like just like existing, and like actually being conscious and like being aware of like what's going on in like your surroundings and everything like that. Okay, so here are some different examples of consciousness, and like the levels of consciousness have to do with like the brain waves or like the brain activity. The first like most basic level are like delta waves, which are like very like slow waves, and that is like a deep sleep, and it's like basically like an unconscious sleep, like you're not aware of like your surroundings. A lot of animals that hibernate have it, and just like also some animals sleep, like dogs and cats, their sleep involves delta waves.
The next level is theta waves. This is involved with relaxation, like sleep and instinctive behavior. So a lot of mammals and birds and also some reptiles have this. It's like I don't know how to explain it.
So the next one is alpha waves. And that's like a relaxed awakeness.
It's like
you're calm, but like you're like aware.
like an hour after you wake up and you're kind of like still like a little tired, but you are attentive and aware, and you're kind of like quiet, but you're just like listening and taking in what's happening. That's kind of like what it is. And a lot of birds of prey, have alpha waves while they're scanning their environment for prey, because it lets them be relaxed while. Yes.
Delta waves are like when you're in your deep sleep, right? And then like theta waves are like you're like about to wake up, probably like the last hour of sleep. And then like alpha waves are like after a little while after you wake up. Or like theta waves is like you're in and out of like waking up and sleeping. And then alpha waves is like you've been awake for a little bit, but you're not like fully like there. So then next there's beta waves,
Which is active thinking and problem solving. Humans, monkeys, and apes have strong beta waves. So this is like you're awake, you're going throughout your day, you're at school or at work or something, and you're being attentive. And it's not like you're really thinking too hard, but you're also able to solve problems when they come up. You're able to, it's basically like normal human behavior throughout the day.
next is gamma waves.
Gamma waves is
High levels of cognition or like perception. It's most common in humans, dolphins, and some birds. It's like memory, like problem solving, like complex understanding and stuff. And it's like your brain is like the waves are like waving.
yeah, they're waving. Yeah, it's like when you're learning new things and you're really putting your mind to it, like you're learning a new math equation, or you're exploring a new place and like trying to learn everything. That's where gamma waves comes in. It helps you think deeper and harder about what's happening. It lets you memorize things better. And only the highest level of consciousness in organisms experience gamma waves, because that's kind of, so far that's like the top level.
Yeah, so there's like a bunch of different, there's 5 different levels of consciousness that like we know. Different animals and stuff experience different levels of consciousness.
So what exactly is consciousness? We've been talking about consciousness a lot, or we're going to in this video, and it'll be kind of good to understand what exactly it is. So we don't actually know fully like the clear definition of consciousness, but what I think it is the experience of being you in yourself, the experience of you feeling what you're seeing and what you're hearing, the experience of you feeling your emotions and able to go throughout each day feeling like yourself. Because if you weren't conscious and you were like a zombie, then you wouldn't be you. You would just be a human. You wouldn't be Kyler or Everett. You'd be human 1, human 2. But since you're conscious, you're able to be yourself, and you have your own self-awareness of yourself. You're able to make your own choices, your own decisions. You're able to feel what it feels like to be you. That's what I think consciousness is.
So after we just talked about perception is like at the highest level of consciousness, or like it is the highest level of consciousness. And so we're gonna talk about perception versus like physical reality, what are some like differences between them, and like what are some similarities?
Perception exists only in the mind of the being that is experiencing it. That means that you know that you're perceiving things, but you don't fully 100% know other people around you or other things are perceiving what they are experiencing. There's not like a real way to know other than yourself, because you are the one that's experiencing it. It exists only in the mind of the person being experienced. It is influenced by emotions, experiences, and biases. So your perception of things can be changed due to past experiences. Like if you got in a car crash like a year ago, you might still be scared of going in cars, or something like that. It's based off of things that have already happened, and that's like in your brain that you've learned from. It can differ from person to person. Each person has their own experience. Each person is experiencing what they're experiencing differently. Everyone has their own perspective on things. So a situation can happen and two people can look at it two completely different ways, because that's just how they perceive it, that's how they grew up, that's how they understand what is happening. It can change over time or in different contexts, kind of like I've been saying before, like your experience of eating broccoli when you're younger could be really bad, but then when you grow up 20 years later, it could be one of your favorite vegetables. Stuff changes. It's not always a direct reflection of reality. So there's ways that you can have illusions, like go to a museum or something. There's different illusions, like you can look at one thing and you see something, but in reality it's not that. Like one of these illusions that I remember is like there's a box and one person stands in one corner and the other person stands in the other corner. And in reality, both corners are the same levelness, but if you stand a certain spot, then it looks like one corner is way up here and the other corner is down here. It's like what your brain is seeing tries to make it make sense, which isn't always right. And then there's also hallucinations, like hallucinogens, like LSD, shrooms, stuff like that. Those can make you see things that aren't reality. It can alter your brain to make you see things that aren't there.
Okay, so now physical reality. So physical reality exists without perception, and it doesn't like need perception to exist. So like you don't have to have perception to have reality. Like reality being like the world that doesn't perceive and everything. Like basically the world without perception. It exists, but there's nothing to perceive it, so it's kind of pointless, but still it's there, and it's always going to be there, like even if there's no perception. It also follows the laws of nature, like physics and chemistry. So like if you kick a rock down a hill, it's gonna like roll to the bottom of the hill. It's not like it's gonna like flinch before like you kick it and then like roll down the hill. It's gonna just like with the contact, it's just gonna roll down the hill. And yeah, it's also measurable and observable in a repeatable way. So like if you do the same experiment with a rock, like and kick it down the hill, like it's gonna go down the hill it's gonna roll down the hill every single time. Whereas like perception can be different every single time, different with every single person. It can change, and yeah. So it doesn't change with like anybody like seeing it, like no matter whose perspective is it like seeing something, it's like gonna be the same thing. It also can be studied scientifically. Like you can actually study physical reality. You can't study perception because that's the individual person, and like there's really no way to like test it. And then it's also like materialistic.
Yeah, like this paper is materialistic, but our thoughts and brain and eyesight and stuff isn't. It's invisible. Okay, so for both of them, they interact with each other. Our perception is shaped by physical reality, and our understanding of reality is seen through perception. So everything that we understand about reality is through our perception of it. So without perceiving it, we wouldn't understand anything about reality. And without reality, we wouldn't perceive. So they kind of like go back and forth with each other, even though they're two completely different things. They both play a role in human experience and decision making. So depending on what you see in front of you will change your decisions, and also the way you see things and your perspective and perception of things will also change how you react to certain things happening. So like if this table wasn't here, then my arms wouldn't be on it. But also if I didn't see this table here, I might walk into it. So it just changes how we do things every day.
They both like also influence how we navigate the world.
Yeah.
That's like basically what you just said though. This is around like the question of consciousness, because like these are some more like kind of hard to explain things. One is Mary the color scientist.
So Mary the color scientist is a thought experiment where there's a scientist that's been in a black and white room their entire life. All that they can see is black and white. They can't see any color at all, but they've had their entire life to study everything about color. So this person knows every single thing that they can possibly know about color. They understand how it works, they have read descriptions of what people see, even though that's kind of hard, but she knows everything that there needs to know about color. So you can say, yeah, that she knows everything about color. But then she walks out of the room into like the real world where there is color, and for the first time she was able to actually feel what it's like to see color. So it goes along with consciousness, because you can know everything there is to know about consciousness, but you won't be able to fully understand it without actually being conscious, without feeling what it feels like to be conscious. And then the second one is the split brain experiment. They experimented on someone who got their brain really cut in half, and they had pictures up on a screen where the left arm had to pick a picture that went with what it was seeing, and then the right arm had to pick another picture that went with what I was seeing. So there's like two pictures on the computer screen on both sides, and then there's other pictures underneath that you had to like pick what goes with it. So they did it with a normal person that wasn't their brain split, and there was like a picture of a house with snow around it, and then there was like a chicken coop, and one side picked the snow shovel to go with the house that needed to be shoveled, and then the other side picked the chicken leg because that went with the chicken coop. But the split brain experiment, the person with a split brain, they did the same exact thing with the same pictures and everything, and the left side picked the snow shovel and the right side picked the chicken leg. So it was fine, but then they asked the person to explain why they picked what they picked, and they said that they picked the chicken leg because it went with the chicken coop, and then they picked the snow shovel to pick up the chicken poop, because both sides of the brain weren't able to communicate with each other to explain why they picked the snow shovel for the snow house. So the right side, or I forget which side it is, but one of the sides of the brain has the part where you can speak out loud and talk. But since the connection between both sides of the brain was severed, it wasn't able to tell the other, the communicative side, why it picked that. So then that side of the brain automatically came up with a reason of why they picked the snow shovel. The left hemisphere of the brain is the one
responsible for the speech and talking. Alright, so our next question. If not just physical matter, then what else might we be?
Consciousness could be more than a byproduct of the brain's physical processes. It could be emergent, meaning that with the brain in the processes, consciousness just appears. Or it could be an aspect of reality. It's just how reality is. Or it could be something non-material.
With it being like a emergent thing, like I would say that I wasn't conscious until I was like at least like 3. So like if it is emergent, then it's like something that happens. Like nobody's conscious when like I don't think anybody's conscious when they're like coming out of their mother.
Yeah, I feel like they're still kind of like in that zombie range where they cry because they're hungry, they cry because they poop their pants and it's uncomfortable.
And like they still have you'll still have like some brain waves, but they're like slower and like not, maybe I think it was like the theta waves, where it's like not the it's not like deep sleep or like unconscious completely, but it's like slight like waking, like when you're like in like a slight sleep or like
We could also be a soul or a spirit that transcends the body and lives on past death. That's a highly, it's
something we'll never know, and we're never gonna know if that's what it is. Like no one living is gonna know. I mean, we're gonna obviously find out, or we're not gonna find out after we die. It could be a different thing happens to different people. I mean, like sometimes like I question whether like other people are conscious too.
Yeah.
Even
And also the soul and spirit's like the most popularly believed thing, because a lot of religions involve an afterlife and your soul and your spirit moving on to someplace else. Another one is that we may be a simulation, or like live in a simulation, like avatars in a programmed world, which could be like more advanced beings somewhere out there could have created Earth or the universe as like a simulation to whatever experiment. I don't know. Some people believe that. I don't
think so.
I don't really think so either.
Because like I think like I don't think there's any possible way, like me being myself, I don't think there's any possible way like anybody else is influencing my decisions or my creations. Like I'm thinking it in my head and then I'm perceiving and making decisions and like having memories and everything like that.
Yeah. And the last one, it like ties in with simulation, is that we could be trapped in like a dreamlike state. So like we could be somewhere completely different, like our bodies, but we are in this like dream like state to feel like we're living a life, when really we're just, I don't know, test subjects or something. I don't know, kind of like I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like a scene in The Matrix where they go into like this like kingdom like place where all the bad guys are, and there's like this giant structure of just pods of bodies in there. It's just bodies, but they're being like used for their, I don't know, stem cells. I don't really know, I forget. But all of them are in this like dreamlike state that makes them feel like they're living a normal life, that they're going through life living in it, but in reality they're stuck in this like pod. So some people believe that also.
Okay, so now here we're gonna talk about some of the like big questions. The first one is life a biological process that happens physically and then consciousness ends at the conclusion of the process?
Yeah.
Anyways. Okay,
So, from a material perspective, life is a biological process governed by physical laws. Consciousness is often seen as an emergent property of the brain, somehow created from neural activity. Once death occurs, consciousness ends. In this view, there's no life after death. That's kind of like the material reductionism view of it, that all you are is just biological, and when you die, that's it.
no afterlife.
And then from a non-materialistic perspective, consciousness may not entirely be dependent on the brain. It could be fundamental to reality, meaning it is a part of the universe, similarly to how the forces of physics and energy are. If consciousness is not just a product of the brain, then it may persist after the physical death in ways that we don't understand yet. That kind of answers from both sides, depending on what you believe in.
I believe that like it's a question that we're never gonna know the answer to until we die, and I think that's like the purpose of that question, is to not know until you die. Like the purpose of life is to live your life and everything, but then when it's time and you die, you either are just dead and you're gone, or you have an afterlife and you have a new purpose of that afterlife, and you don't think about what happens next. You just focus on that, but you have that.
And I believe that, I want us to have a spirit, and that we live on to an afterlife of some sort, but I believe that all we are is just material reductionism, that we're just biological beings, and that when we die, we die. Even though that's, a lot of people choose to believe that we have a spirit or soul based on religion or just whatever, and I feel like a lot of people believe that because it brings them like peace and closure. But I mean, I don't know, I want to believe that, but I think we're just biological things.
Mm-hmm.
But you never know. The second question is consciousness something that interacts with material reality in ways that can't be tested and persist after the conclusion of the biological process of life? If consciousness interacts with reality beyond the physical barriers, like telepathy, influencing events non-physically or through brain waves, then it would challenge our entire scientific understanding of not just our brains and the capabilities of human nature, but also reality as we know it. Thought someone was opening the door. Also, consciousness could shape reality in very subtle ways, like how observation could influence reality on the quantum level, which is also known as the observer effect in quantum mechanics. So like, by observing things, it could change how it is like quantumly. I don't really know too much about it, so I wouldn't really be good at explaining it, but yeah.
Not a lot of people do. Not a lot of people can explain it. It's confusing, yeah. Next question. Can consciousness be created in non-biological systems? So, the brain itself is a biological system that processes information with consciousness. So, if we replicate the process in a non-biological way, like with a computer or something like that, consciousness could emerge.
Yeah, that's one way to think about it.
But it's programmed consciousness. So it's like not authentic.
Yeah.
It's false consciousness. Like consciousness comes from the biological process of like the brain. It's like a byproduct of the biological brain. So like if you program something non-biologically, then it's just like it's like simulating consciousness because it's programmed to do that, but it's not like real consciousness.
Yeah.
It's simulating consciousness, like it's not real.
Yeah. Another way to think about it is that consciousness is tied to biological processes, the brain's chemistry, neuron interactions, stuff like that. So if consciousness depends on specific biological structures, then purely mechanical or digital systems might never be truly conscious. Like she was saying, it might stimulate consciousness, it might act like it might seem like it, but wouldn't actually fully understand what it feels like to be conscious and to have a self-awareness and stuff like that. Also, consciousness could be something fundamental to the universe, which would mean that creating consciousness in a machine may require much more than just replicating neurons, possibly tapping into something deeper than that we do not understand. So like, if consciousness is a soul or something, then we might have to tap into something that we have no idea what it is or how to.
Last question for the big questions, I think, right?
Yeah.
Could consciousness be transferred and preserved from a biological system to a non-biological system?
If consciousness is just complex information processing, then theoretically a perfectly digital copy of the brain structure and neural activity could be made, preserving a person's mind. But that also ties in with the other question, is it just simulating consciousness? Is it actually you? Is it actually conscious? Or like, even if we copy the brain perfectly, would the uploaded version actually be you, or just a simulation that behaves like you?
Yeah, it's like when you like take a video of something, the video's there like this, but like then you go and watch a video and that's not the actual like thing happening. It's just the video replaying.
Yeah.
It's not like
The
the
actual
real
experience.
authentic, the real experience. It's just like your phone or your computer creating the video, but it's not the actual thing happening anymore. So, one last thing. What am I? What am I? What are you?
Okay.
Well, I'm conscious. I was made biologically. I'm not like a computer or anything like that. I'm conscious. I'm perceiving. I have a complex mind that I think things a lot. I create a lot of memories and save them in the back of my head. Well, just in my brain actually. But after my life, I don't think that's all I care actually. I just think that I'm just gonna keep being conscious for the time that I can and not waste it thinking about whether or not, like, I'm not gonna waste my time thinking about answering a question that literally cannot be answered. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it also brings a lot of, like, to a lot of people, I mean, to me, like, I know I got a lot of life ahead of me, but, like, it brings a lot of people to, like, a worry thinking about whether they're just gonna, like, whether it's, like, they're gonna die and then nothing's gonna happen, or, like, they're gonna die or, like, go to hell.
Yeah.
Or, like, go to a not fun place. Or whatever's gonna happen. It's, like, I'm just gonna live while I'm alive. Because once I'm dead, I can't live anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I believe I'm just a biological being that has gained consciousness, and I don't want to spend a lot of energy and time trying to figure or answer a question that is unanswerable, like she was saying.
I also think that, like, as I was growing up, I, like, gained a lot of consciousness, like, throughout the way. Like, when I was born, I don't think I was very conscious. And then like when I was like 3, I probably had like my first memory. And like I couldn't really control what I was doing, obviously. Like I couldn't hold in my pee and my poop. I just like my instincts just told me to poop. Like my instincts just made my body poop. It was like, oh, poop, survive. And then like, oh, like hungry, cry.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't consciously like thinking that. I was just, my body was just having me do stuff as instincts to keep me living. And so I think that like as I've gained consciousness, like in my first like 5 to 7 years, probably like 3 to 5 years, I could probably lose consciousness as I get older. Like in my last couple years of life, I probably will like have some damage or like lose some memories, definitely. But yeah, bruh, just gain your train of thought. Just gain it back. Get it back. Come on.
I'm a biological being that has gained consciousness, and I don't know if there is life after death or not, so I don't want to really worry about it. Well, I believe that when I die, I die. So I just want to live life to the fullest and not worry about living on, because I don't think I will live on. So I want to do everything I can while I can.
Exactly. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Alright, so that was our last question. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.